Good afternoon, Val de Fiemme once again, as always, staging the final day of the Tour de Ski. It's the brutal climb up the Alpe Charmis, and leading as he has been for most of this tour, in fact for all of this tour, Ustigov will head out 1 minute 11 seconds ahead of Sumbi, who won it last year. We can see the Alpine run here, in which they'll be skiing up in a few moments' time.
Well, here's the start order for the men's pursuit, the final stage of the Tour de Ski. Sergei Ustiugov wearing bib number 1 with 2 stages to go. He had a bigger lead than anyone has ever had. That has been cut by Sundby. Andy Musgrave starts number 14, 5:21 off the pace. Top 15 finish would be sensational for Musgrave. If he can make top 10, that would be miraculous, but I think that's going to be a tall order. Quite a big margin between him and 10th position. Further down the order, Mike, these men just really wanting to make it to the top of the climb.
That's right, a wave for those last 7 athletes.
Ustiugov has been in his start position for a couple of minutes now. He's ahead of the game, and he will have been psyching himself up all the way through the night. Interesting tactics in the Tour de Ski. I don't think we've ever seen team tactics like the ones we saw yesterday. The Russians certainly were playing games. The Norwegians, I think, were trying, but I don't think they had a strong enough team to be able to help Sundby. And it was all about grabbing those bonus seconds.
It was, and Ustigov praised, so much praised his teammates for helping him, assisting him yesterday, skiing alongside him and giving him some more hope and courage.
9 Ks, and he's gone out like he's skiing 900 metres. He's just a reminder of the profile. Mike, the first, 4.5, 5 Ks is flat, and then the last 4 straight up the hill.
Yes, there's a little bit in the stadium, so incorporating a little of yesterday's race course, so a little uphill here, and then it spins back out onto the tracks, and then it's mainly down for 3.6 kilometres, and as you say, just over 5 kilometres. You're climbing almost up this, well, it's down up a downhill ski slope for the final 4 kilometres. With that 495 metre climb in terms of altitude.
Well, I wonder when he's going to start feeling the fatigue of the last 6 stages. Here is Sundby. He believes he can do something about this 1 minute 11 deficit. Don't forget, he won the Tour last year, but on that occasion, he had to chase down Petter Northug, and he looked very good on the climb. The question is, Mike, was Sundby going at half pace because he had such a lead in the Tour last year, or do you think he showed us his full capacity?
I think he had something left. He had such, as you say, what did he have, a 3-minute lead last year, and I think he cruised the upper part of the Tour de Ski. He still set the 4th fastest ski time, but I'll tell you what, he's gone out like a rocket today.
He's taken that deficit down to 105 in the first couple of 100 metres. He's gone very, very hard, but he's got to be careful. You have to save something for the climb. Dances his way up that first left-hand turn, still in skate 2. He's still got the pressure on, and this is the situation that Northug's been in so many years.
It must be horrible going out front and chasing, but going out front, Ustigov looked petrified to me, and they didn't even look at each other, I noticed, on the line for the first 5 minutes.
Colonia, triple winner of the Tour de Ski, and finding himself 2 minutes 4 seconds adrift of Ustiugov, really defending second, or defending third, I should say. I'm not sure he can catch Sundby. Matti Häkkinen will start behind. Häkkinen, a slightly better classic skier than he is freestyle. He's done brilliantly, and a really good race from Häkkinen yesterday.
Well, and unusually, I mean, I know we view him as a classic skier, but last year he set the fastest time, Häkkinen, and that's that very light framework of his, light body weight, and I think he'll be trying to hunt down Colonia, who's only, 30 seconds ahead of him. Alex Harvey, 6th at the moment, 2:42 behind. He's only got 8 seconds to pull back Magnificat, who set out just ahead of him. Hellner, the first of the 3 Swedes, 5 still remaining in the Tour. Hellner's a good climber, didn't do it last year. but we've seen much improved form from Hellner this season, and of course he stated he wants more gold at the World Championships in February in Finland. Dancing up the steep climb here.
Really looking forward to the first split time, and expecting to see Sundby has pulled something back. But Mike, we've seen it so many times. If you work too hard on the flat, you haven't got anything to give on the initial stage of the climb. After about half the climb, everyone settles into their maximum pace, and you can't do a whole lot about that. Has Sundby got it right? Do you think he can start to put pressure on Ustiakov by closing down?
Do you know, I think this is the strategy he has to unfold, because if he's got a real hope of winning it, he has to close this initial gap and then go on survival. And he's such a brutally strong athlete that maybe he can survive this. He knows the risk of going too hard too soon.
Ustiakov certainly had to work hard yesterday. There was a stage we thought he was going to drop out of contention when it looked as though his skis, his wax wasn't working right, but somehow he managed to revive himself, finished in second, and he was quite happy to admit that without his teammates he would not have got himself on the podium yesterday. The other Russians did great work to protect him, to steal the bonus points from Sundby where possible. Number 9 leaving, that's Nicholas Dierhaug of Norway. De Fabiani of Italy starting 10. 11 is Hans Christer Holland for Norway. Jean-Marc Gaillard goes 12 for France as we go back to Sundby, who started 1:11 behind. With all that effort, he's only closed down 2 seconds. So the two leaders are going hammer and tongs already here in Val di Fiemme.
It's such a risk. I remember Northug, one of the years, he had to pull back 25 seconds. He was in second place. He did all of that before the final climb, moved ahead of his opponent, and then it just melted. He did not have the strength, and Northug wasn't a great climber up this hill. In fact, Northug said he'd never win this event because of that hill, but of course with Sundby taken out of it 2015, he got his victory because he was second that year. Muzzy, what a great Tour de Ski he's having. 14th position, right on his case, less than a second behind Shure Rota, and I think they'll work well together. They've got a full 22 seconds to try and bridge that gap to Tunseth, and then Jean-Marc Gaillard ahead of him. So everybody trying to improve their ranking in the Tour de Ski. There's World Cup points at stake. There's a lot of money at stake if you just move even one position forward today. And of course, at the end of the relatively simple 5 kilometers, 5.2 kilometers, it's the brutal climb up a very steep alpine slope here in Val di Fiemme. Hellner will get a split time soon. Just trying to see who's moving. Cologne, he started 2:04 behind. He's dropped 3 seconds already. Heikkinen started 2:33 and he's pulled back 1 second. So this is the section within the stadium for these later starters. They know this track well. The World Championships were here 2013. And of course they raced on these tracks yesterday and the day before. 9, 10, 11. De Fabiani in the middle, sandwiched between the two Norwegians. I think De Fabiani, last year he was 22nd overall in this section. I think he's better this year. I expect he'll place a top 10 timing in this individual event itself.
Yeah, I was having a look at the timings up the climb. Ustiakov 17:29, Sundby was 17:10. This is just on the climbing section alone, not the approach to it. Harvey 17:51. Heikkinen was exceptionally quick, 16:47, actually produced the fastest time. So Heikkinen might feel that he can take on Dario Cologne.
Do you know, I think he will. He would have last night looked at this, how he felt last year, and always these positives from the previous year can carry into the next year.
Well, we're getting used to these conditions in Val di Fiemme. A laid out track of snow. Dario Cologne the bib number, his position in the Tour, rather than the number of times he's won it, which is also 3. And he started 2:04 behind. He's lost a little, but nothing too dramatic. The question is, what's happening behind? And it looks as though Alex Harvey's had a cracking start to this race. He's also brought Marcus... Has he got Marcus Hellner with him, or is it Magnifica? Magnifica wearing 5 is in there. Harvey's gone ahead of Magnifica. And Matti Häkkinen, who we thought was going to be chasing for 3rd, is biding his time, Mike. I wouldn't be surprised to see Häkkinen get Harvey and Magnifica back on the climb.
He's a man of few words, Häkkinen, but he's a very wise man, and I think he'd have figured out where he can make all of his time is on the actual climb section. This is just a warm-up, I think, and I'm sure we'll see Häkkinen moving forward.
Hellner's travelling okay. He started 2:54. He's made a little bit of ground, I think. 2:51. That will do. That will do. It's all about the climb.
When you look at the times, Patrick, back to Sundby, nothing's really changed. It was 11.9 at the start, 1:11.9. It's 1:09 now. What was it, 2013 when Legkov, Russian, last won? I think it's looking to this point quite good for the Russians again.
This is Simon Kruger, who got his first World Cup podium in Toblach in the freestyle time trial there. It was a tremendous race from Kruger. He was just about the only Norwegian who seemed to be on a good pair of skis, and he took full advantage of that. Top 10 in the Tour would certainly keep him happy. He started 3:51, so he's just about matched the pace of Ustiakov and Sundby, 3:50.6. Very good on the corners. He's a really compact skier, Mike. Doesn't really fall into the normal Norwegian mould of 6'5" and made of muscle. He's well under 6 foot, but still very bulky.
Well, if you're wheezing along this section, gasping for air, there's one certainty: you're going to be gasping even more at the top of the climb.
De Fabiani. No, Giorgio De Centa hasn't made it through to this stage. The Italians have got one podium finish in the Tour de Ski in the 10-year history. It's going to be 11 by the end of this race. And that, of course, was Giorgio De Centa, who finished, I think he took a 3rd place early on in the history of the Tour. Most successful team, the Norwegians, 11 podium finishes. Of course, they've had 3 victories, 2 going to Sundby, 1 going to Northug. The Swiss, 5 podiums, 3 wins in those 5 podiums, all of them podiums and wins going to Dario Cologna. He's
really flown the flag well, hasn't he? And I really would love to see Cologna making the podium again today. It looked good at the start, but already the pack are closing him down.
Yeah, and compare that to Russia. Ustikov, Belov, Velikjanin, and of course Legkov all on the podium as Andy Musgrave goes through in 14th, having started 14th. Just looking at the margins, what do we have on his clock? 5. I don't think he's lost too much, Musgrave. 5:16 he is at the moment, having started 5:21. So actually he started faster than this man, Ustiakov, the race leader. Now the hard work starts. 6.2 kilometers completed. He's got another 3 Ks to go. Well, he's not hanging around at the moment. Well, this is where we want the pulse watch, just to see what rate he's working at. And we might get one.
I love his balance on his skis. There's a lot of pressure through his lead side, and he gets a lot of upper body rotation, but drop through the right side as he compresses through the ski, and then sliding, lifting, sliding that left foot quite nicely up into the hill.
Lots of power. This looks to be slightly more use out of the right leg than the left. It's a fairly asymmetrical technique, whereas Sundby is quite the opposite.
You mentioned earlier, of course, Ustiakov's teammates who've had victories here, Legkov, Velikjanin, of course, not being allowed to race this year. They wanted to come, and in fact they took it to court. They still wanted to race here, but it didn't work.
So having got it back to 109, Sumbi's now started to go the wrong way, sticking with the V2. Now that's incredibly hard work on a hill like this, but is he going to keep that going to the top? That would be a little bit of history.
Oh, that would be something special. But and when you're on this V2 or Skate 2, it really loads all the muscle groups. Normally, if you're using that, you get a recovery and then you can flush the muscles quite quickly. But he's changed into Gear 1, Skate 1.
From what we saw this morning, only 2 women managing to avoid the alternate skate technique, which is your lowest gear on the steep climbs. One of those, the Tour winner, Heidi Weng.
Look who's making his move. I thought he would just hide in there, not hide in there, but get the drafting, and now Heikkinen's gone wide, and this is where Heikkinen will bring all his good uphill climbing techniques into play.
Now, that group of 3 were 28 to 34 seconds behind Dario Cologna at the start of this one. They've made good ground. Heikkinen's been waiting for the climb to start. This is where he takes advantage. He's a slighter build than the other 2 men around him. Alex Harvey of Canada would love to make it onto the podium, but he's going to have to dig deeper than he's ever done before. Magnifica, great skater. We saw him on tremendous form in Toblach. That's a venue where he did so well. Just missed out on the victory there, beaten by Ustiakov by 0.4 of a second. Helner, Mike, how do you rate his chances?
Well, Helner's another one who's a little bit like Heikkinen's very slender framework. It does suit him on the climb. Didn't do it last year. I think he's got a good chance of catching Harvey.
Well, you can see Sumbi in the background, and it looks as though Sumbi has lost even more time to Ustiakov, who's just up the work rate. And if he keeps this going and he produces the fastest time today, he could win 6 of the 7 stages on the Tour. That has never been done before. Marit Bjørgens won 5 when she won it. She won 4 and failed to win it when Kowalczyk overtook her on the final stages.
Well, you mentioned Giorgio De Scenta. That was way back, in 2007 and 8. And remember, he was just pipped on the line by Rennie Sommerfeld. He was leading all the way up the mountain, and he was taken by less than a second across the line. I remember his disappointment. Well, there's Cologna, there's Sumbi up with us. Look how close Heikkinen is now. Is it Heikkinen? No, it's still Magnificat leading the chase.
Yeah, Cologna, I think, has gone into a different gear. I think he sensed that the 3 behind him were starting to make ground. So is he going to be able to hang on to a 3rd position? We'll have to wait and see. Sumbi from 114. Now he starts to move. 8-second gain in the first stage of the hill. Marcus Helner just going through 7.1 kilometers. Remember, the total distance is 9 kilometers, so 1,900 meters to suffer before the end of the 2017 Tour. This man will be enjoying every single second of it. Ustiakov, 11 World Cup wins to his name. He's only 24. He's still a relatively young man. His 5th season on the World Cup. He was 51st in the rankings in the first year, 11th, 26th, 4th, and now lying 2nd in the rankings for this year. And even if he wins, Mike, with Sumbi likely to finish 2nd here, he's still not going to overtake the Norwegian in the World Cup standings.
Oh, he'll do it. Still, his bank balance will look good. 90,000 Swiss francs when he gets to the top, and then all these stage wins as well. He was brutally strong on that 26% incline just before the little switchbacks.
Sumbi goes for the tempo tactic rather than the force that we're seeing from Ustiakov. The predicted time behind is now under a minute, but he's got 1,500 meters to complete and to close down that gap. It's unlikely, but Sumbi is the sort of man that will believe it is possible.
58, so he's nibbling into those margins, and I did notice that Ustiakov didn't even look back on this section, deliberately kept his own focus on what he could achieve, not worrying about the chase.
He's very strong in the upper body. I think if there's a difference between them, it's the power in the upper body that Ustiakov has that Sumbi doesn't. We've seen that time and again in this Tour, particularly over the last 1,500 meters of race. And when it comes down to a sprint, Ustiakov's had it. Sumbi's just been slightly lacking.
A little bit lacking. Remember, Sumbi's double poling in La Clusa, 10 kilometers. But of course, they're all a high level of strength. What about Cologna? He realizes he's being almost breathed on by a chasing pack.
Yeah, Colonia, have a look at the ski. Is it gliding? The right one is pretty much coming to a standstill. The key here is to keep those skis moving away from the body, and it just makes it a little easier. Heikkinen goes into the alternate skate technique, but he's using it well because he's managing to get particularly the left ski to glide well. Magnifica behind him, just what we said this morning, Mike. When one breaks into alternate, the others feel they've got an excuse to do exactly the same.
Well, Heikkinen's head is almost, well, looking right down at his boots, suffering a lot of discomfort right now.
It's a little like fell running, isn't it, Mike? When the guy in front of you starts walking, you think that's your ticket.
You think, whoa, he's suffering as well. I need a break too. But this man has kept punching hard. Ustigov wants this more than most.
35th in the Tour of Lillehammer, a mini tour at the early stage of the season. And here he is, about to claim the hardest tour on the world circuit.
This is the shoulder rotation I was talking about. He really brings in upper body weight dropping through the lead side, but he still keeps the hips well forward. 28% that slope.
Little break in the rhythm there for Ustiakov, but he negotiated those couple of turns very well indeed. No time lost at all. Let's see what sort of shape Sundby is in as he comes up to the similar part of the course. 8.1 kilometers completed now, 900 meters to go, and Ustiakov surely is close enough to be able to relax. He can look over his shoulder and check out the position of the Norwegian, but that's not in the Russian psyche.
It's not. I don't think he's looked back once. He's just keeping his own fight going and going. And of course, earlier this morning, this race course was open to all.
Bronze in the Olympic skiathlon for Sundby. He was also fourth in the 50 kilometre. He might find himself promoted to one of the medal positions after all the inquiries are completed. Legkov, Vilikjanin, Shanusov, all ahead of him on that day. It was a Russian 1-2-3 in the Olympic 50.
Well, I thought earlier that that Hellner might catch Harvey, and Harvey is detached from Heikkinen and Magnifica. But where's Hellner? There's Hellner.
So no podium for Alex Harvey. Dario Colonia still sitting in third at the moment, the 30-year-old from Davos. I saw him doing a VO2 test on roller skis in the classic style, Mike. Phenomenal control of the skis. Anyone who's tried classic technique on rollers knows just how difficult it is. 21 wins to his name, 3 Tour de Skis, 3 Olympic golds, only 1 World Championship gold medal. That was back in 2013. That's the only area where Colonia's been found wanting.
But on this tour as well, Dario Colonia, he's won it 3 times. He's been third once and looking good for another third today. Or is he? Magnificat might have another version of that.
What a battle for 4th place and 5th place in that tour. Magnificat has it at the moment. He's only 2 seconds ahead of Heikkinen. Hellner going ahead of Harvey now, and the Canadian really suffering. But it's been a tremendous tour for Alex Harvey. He was 14th in the tour last year, suffered on this stage again. I think his time, what was his time? 17:51 actually. His climbing time wasn't too bad. So I think maybe slightly more fatigued than last year.
Further back down the hill, Andrew Musgrave, he started 14, he's just 1 second behind now in 15th position. Sure, Rota is just ahead of him.
Well, that will help, I think, if Muzzy can just tuck in behind Surota. Be nice to see, get a shot of him. We should do later on. Once this man has finished, he's getting closer and closer, but the technique is getting more and more ragged. Sundby in the background, still, 150 meters behind. He is getting closer though, Mike, but this picture foreshortening the distance, and certainly it makes it look as though it's relatively flat. This is one of the steepest sections, over 26 degrees.
Oh, Ustigov, he'll gain a lot of respect back home. A lot of the Russians loving cross-country skiing and biathlon.
9.97, so 970 meters still to go. Oh, Sundby barely can crawl around that corner. Has he sensed that he's closing on Ustiakov? We'll find out in a moment. He's what, 60 meters, 70 meters behind the Russian at the moment. He can see him, that's all important, but still 54 seconds. So no real gains over the last 3 or 4 minutes of effort from Martin Jonsrud-Sumbi. The winner from last year is going into second. He's unable to match Dario Colonia on 3 wins, although I'm sure he still feels he should have the win from 2015, the one that was taken away.
495 meters climb, altitude climb up this horrendous 3.5 kilometer ski slope.
The cowbells ring out for Ustiakov. It's been a dominant performance from start to end. He won the sprint in Valmuster. He backed it up with a win in the 10-kilometer classic there. He won the skiathlon in Oberstdorf. He won the pursuit in Oberstdorf as well. And then he went to Toblach and he made it 5 in a row with a win in the 10-kilometer freestyle. He couldn't get the victory in Val di Fiemme yesterday in the 15-kilometer classic, but he did manage to snatch a second place. So he's had 5 wins, 1 second. Surely no one else deserves the title more than him.
Dario Colonia, he's been closed down by Magnificat. There's only, what, 5 meters in it?
I think we have a sprint coming. Will it be Colonia? Will it be Magnificat who takes 3rd place? Magnificat is suffering, but then so is Dario Colonia. Just trying to read the body language. I think Colonia's technique was still a little more controlled than Magnificat's.
He normally doesn't show much discomfort, does Colonia, but his head was down, and if Magnificat does it, he'll be the first Frenchman on the podium in the 11-year history of this tour.
It's taken a few years, Mike, but this year, this event has been better supported than any other year, and that's because there's so much drama. Everyone here has probably had a go at cross-country skiing. They know what it's like going on the flat, let alone what it's like trying to climb a mountain like this.
And look where they've come from. You can see right down to the bottom of the valley.
And the Russians are here as well, ever present. Doesn't matter whether it's cross-country or biathlon. They always have fans present.
600 meters to go for Ustiakov.
The celebrations can't start quite yet, and the focus on the tactics has to start now for Dario Colonia. What does he do to hold off Magnificat? Well, firstly, he's got to make it difficult to get past, but a roadblock is not permitted. Heikkinen, in the meantime, is making a little bit of a fight back.
He is. The trouble with Dario and the noise up here with the cowbells and all the spectators, 22,000 spectators, Dario won't be able to hear Magnificat if he shouts he wants past.
Hellner must have felt he had a chance of making top 5, but I think he's running out of time. 8.5 kilometers completed. He's still got over 500 meters to go. Hellner 2:17 off the leaders. He's still 15 seconds behind Heikkinen of Finland.
Further back down, Andrew Musgrave, he was with Show Rota, but he's now lost some 20 seconds to him. So Muzzy in 15th, but he's been chased down by Burman, who's 5 seconds behind in 16th place.
Burman of Sweden, that is, who's in 16th. So Muzzy's not going to have an easy finish to the tour. Ustiakov can afford to ease off now. Still he can do skate to the top. It's quite incredible what these men can do. Such strength, so many hours spent in the gym. And we've seen just about everything, every skill, every asset of a cross-country skier over the last 8-9 days. It all started on New Year's Eve. Well, here's the sprint from Magnificat. Colonia won't let him go easily. Colonia closes him off on the corner. Now that's a little cheeky, has to be said. There's plenty more opportunity for Magnificat to go later on, and there'll be some crosswords between those two when they cross the line. I thought that was out of order.
That there was a bit of a roadblock, wasn't it? And it has affected Magnificat. It broke his spirit a little.
Here comes the Tour winner. Only the 2nd time that the Russians have taken the title. He's doing it for his absent teammates. Some will agree, some won't. But take nothing away from this man. He has dug deep from the very first race on the 31st of December 2016, the sprint in Valmuster, where he absolutely slaughtered the rest of the field. 30:27 is climbing time. Ustiakov takes the win.
Well, he's focused, he's pushed, he's never ever given up in any of the races. Ustiakov, a great performance once again.
And he's the only man to have led the stage, the tour, from start to finish. No one else has been in the red bib as the tour leader. Colonia now makes his move away from Magnifica, so I think you're right, Mike. I think that little tete-a-tete caused a few problems.
Well, I think so. You could just sense that Magnificat, that was his moment to go past. It was he couldn't do it, and then he just lost the spirit. And well done to Dario Colonia, another third position, looking likely. It's not over yet.
Sumbi safe in second place. Another 320 World Cup points to him. He holds his lead in the World Cup standings ahead of Ustiakov of Russia. Be interesting to see the body language between these two.
Survival for Sumbi at the moment.
Well, there you have it.
Well, what's all that about?
Hey, you don't turn your back to your partner. You don't turn your back to someone who's just beaten you in a race. Dario Colonia holds on to third comfortably in the end.
Well, exhaustion. Well done, Dario. That was impressive. He was being really tested there. And Magnificat, as always, a real fighter. Yeah. Heikkinen didn't quite have it this time round.
Slightly surprised. Heikkinen started 4. We thought he would be the man finishing in third position, but it's not turned out that way. You will never see cross-country skiers foaming at the mouth quite like this on any other race. Just a reminder, 495 metres of ascent. Marcus Hellner still looking comfortable. He's a brilliant technician, isn't he, Mike?
He really is. A lovely technique. Didn't quite have it today. And if I'm right, well, Marcus Hellner, of course, 2012, he was second. And, of course, Kalle Halvorsen third in 2015. I would have thought in the history of this, 11 years of this event, we might have seen more Swedes on the podium. They've only achieved it twice and not the victory.
Only 5 nations have shared the 11 titles. Russia equal the Czech Republic by getting their second today. Both of the Czech Republic's titles coming through Lukas Bauer. Actually, he got all 3 of their podium finishes as well. Harvey, 2:39 behind.
He's such a muscly, big, tall, strong athlete. This hill doesn't really suit Alex. Although he was 14th last year, 7th this year is a good job.
Now, are we looking at a future winner of the Tour? Kruger in the final stages now.
And certainly one of the youngest in the field today. Not the youngest, second youngest, I think. Yeah, he's got everything. He's got classic technique, he's got the skating technique. Sprinting he needs to work on maybe a little.
Well, we'll try and get you an update on Musgrave. Last we heard he'd dropped from 14 down to 18. He's behind Berman, he's behind Notz of Germany, and losing a little bit of time. Actually, he's not being able to hang on to anyone there, and now being chased down by Tony Livers of Switzerland, who's, what, some 20 seconds behind. So hopefully Musgrave can get a second win on the final stage.
That's a pity. It was great to start today, though, 14th, but dropping down to 18th. And once you hit the fatigue wall, difficult to get round it.
Yeah, I think we should have been wary of that 5-second gain on Ustiakov on the flat section at the bottom today. That's perhaps not the best move. Holland goes into 9th, and another Norwegian, Niklas Dyrhaug, into 10th, 2 places worse than where he was last year.
Boy, will they be happy when they cross the line. It's been a tough week, a lot of focus, a lot of travel, different beds, different environment.
Yeah, in both tours, Mike, the Norwegians are still there, but the domination is not as complete, not as impressive as it was last year. Is that something to do with the salbutamol?
I wonder.
Well, welcome back to Val di Fiemme, a replay of the Tour winner coming up the final stages of this Alpe d'Huez climb. I can tell you that while we were away, Andrew Musgrave has finished. He's claimed 18th place. First time he's made it into the top 20 of the Tour. 22 places higher than he was last year. So he's getting there, slowly but surely. And a couple of legs where he threatened to take a top 5 finish as well. 12 World Cup wins now for Ustiakov. Most of them have come on this tour alone. 25 podium finishes. Don't forget, Mike, he was leading the Tour of Canada last year up until the last leg, and he was chased down by Sumbi on that occasion. Sumbi had, I think it was a skiathlon, a 30k skiathlon, and it was the classic stage where Sumbi made the ground. But with only 9 kilometres to play with, that margin of 1 minute and 11 was more than enough for Ustiakov to claim the win. Musgrave, there you see, 6:07 off the lead, and he started this morning 5:21, so he's not lost a huge amount of time on this climb, but it wasn't quite the performance we were expecting.
It wasn't, and he lost most of that time in the very final 1.5 kilometres, so he just really physically hit the wall in the final part. I know he put a huge effort in on the flats to haul the time back, and he was setting some of the fastest times before this final section.
Now, it would take certainly take me, I don't know about you, Mike, it would take me a month to recover from this sort of effort. But the World Cup start again next weekend in Toblach. That's for the sprinters only, so most of these men won't be there.
I wouldn't think so. Will Ustiakov? Maybe he will. Maybe he'll try it. He's just so dynamic in his sprinting, and of course doing so well in the overall rankings now in terms of sprint. He just might take himself there.
Danny Rickardson, tall figure. He looks as though he's skied within himself over the last couple of minutes. 8:45 behind, started 24, he finishes 24, so no gains or losses there. Devon Kershaw on the last stretch.
You know, Devon was finished 4th one year, didn't he, if my memory is right. He's had a few good outings here. In fact, Devon is one of well, of course, we saw Bula in the women's field. She started all 11. Well, Devon Kershaw has started all 11 tours as well.
So who do you think had the fastest climbing time today? Is it going to be Ustiakov again to make it 6 wins out of the 7?
Actually, I think it might be Cologne. Cologne started 2:04 behind. He's got it down to 1:19.
Well, surely Maurice Magnificat must have been faster than Cologne, because Magnificat started 30 seconds down on Dario Cologne.
Oh, well, then it's Magnificat fastest, Cologne second, yes, but remember, Magnificat faded a little, lost 7 seconds at the end there.
Melnichenko across the line in 27th. Pepin, who featured yesterday in the classic race, made a bid for glory early on and then faded badly in the closing stages. But it was nice to see the Romanian show us what he can do. There aren't many people that can lead a World Cup at any stage. Thomas Bing featured early in the Tour, produced his PB in Valmoster, and we might see more of him later this season. The next big event on the cross-country tour, of course, the World Championships in Lahti in the at the back end of February. Ustiakov will certainly be a force to be reckoned with there, and hopefully Petter Northug will be back in action.
Yeah, that'd be nice if Petter Northug comes back, and I do wonder how he would have fared this year around. He's not quite the edge that he was in sprinting, and he never was the strength in the climbing, and maybe that's why he'd had enough, having been the only person to do 10 years of complete 10 years of Tour de Ski.
Well, now he was handed a win from 2015. Maybe he felt he didn't need to do it again. Well, we're hoping to hear from Ustiakov. He doesn't speak English, but we're hoping there's a translator on hand to let us know what his feelings are. Also be nice to hear from Sumbi. Of course, all that effort and still having to settle for second place. Got a little bit of his own medicine this year.
He did. It must be tough for Sumbi, having been so successful the last 3 years, to now being most days beaten by somebody else. Rastelli staggered across the line there. bib 40, the Italian.
Lots of records set by Ustiugov, the only man to have finished on the podium of every stage, assuming he's in the top 3 today in terms of time, but he gets the World Cup win for crossing the line first anyway, so that's worth 400 World Cup points and 90,000 Swiss francs. That would go a long way in Russia.
Vukiev. He started well and faded as the tour went on, and you often see that, or we often see that with younger athletes.
Well, there you have the final results and their times. Ustiugov, Sundby and Colonia, the top 3. There's Andy Musgrave, 6:07, the margin. He started in 14th position today behind Didrik Tonseth. Tonseth pulling up to 12th with a very good ascent of the Alpe d'Huez. Danny Rickardson, 8:45. Just looking at his start time, he was 7:26, so he's lost a minute and a quarter. He did look as though he was just skiing for position rather than glory. What a beautiful sunset it's going to be this evening, but the temperature already starting to drop. I'm not sure the pulse rates are going down quite yet, Mike. A good feed, lots of sleep tonight. And what's important at this stage, after a tour like this, you've got to really look after yourself. Sleep and food, staying hydrated. You've got to avoid getting ill.
Very, very much, and I think, of course, the discomfort in their legs, they will have to go out training tomorrow. They'll be doing some long, easy, slow distance tomorrow, just to help the recovery. And of course, a session tonight as well,
you
jogging or
Tour
skiing.
de Ski champion. Amazing fight from you the whole tour, and you held it all the way to the top today.
Ты чемпион Тур де Ски, лидировал весь тур, и как вообще твои?
На самом деле, сейчас нет никаких эмоций. В голове не приходит никаких мыслей. Этот тур я не выиграл не только ради себя, но и ради ребят, которых отстранили. Парни, у нас получилось. Спасибо всем, кто болел. Вся Россия болела за меня. Хочу большой привет передать своей спортивной школе поселка Междуреченского.
The whites of his eyes not quite so white anymore. He is one tired man.
I want to thank my first trainer, Bragin Ivan Gennadievich, Междуреченский Sports School. As for now, I don't have any emotions, no thoughts. I just did it. I'm happy, and I did it for all my guys. Yeah. So, boys, we did it. And thank you, all Russia. I know everyone was watching, and they all were supporting me. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Congratulations on a great victory.
Well, again, reference to the teammates that were not able to enter the Tour de Ski as a result of the McLaren report. Their samples from Sochi deemed to have been tampered with, scratch marks found on the containers. Of course, he was part of that team. He raced in the sprint in Sochi, finishing in 5th position. But we have to wait for the outcome of the McLaren inquiries before we can go any further with that one. But well done to Ustiugov. He has fought so hard. He's led from start to finish in this year's tour, and he's earned himself a 1 minute 2 second lead over Martin Jonsrud Sundby. That gives him 90,000 Swiss francs. It gives him 400 World Cup points, so he closes the gap significantly on Sundby. But Sundby is still the World Cup leader going into the next stage of the season. Musgrave, again, a reminder, top 20. Can't sniff at that. Not a bad effort. We saw some good sprinting from him in Valmoster. That was encouraging. And we know he's good at freestyle.
And Andrew Young as well started. I know he's more a sprinter, but it was great to see 2 Brits in the top 10.
Well, slowly but surely the Alpe d'Huez is being cleared of all the flags and the supporters and the cowbells. And some 41 exhausted athletes. Well, while that goes on, let's just have a look and confirm the standings for the women's. There are the overall. Heidi Weng, the winner of the Tour, goes on to 1,351 points. She's now got over 300-point lead over her nearest rival. Sadie Bjornsson of USA, 16th position, pulled out of the Tour on the last stages, but showed good form in Toblach, getting a podium finish there. So that caps off a tremendous week, or 8 days of racing in the cross-country Tour. Ustiakov takes the men's title. Heidi Weng, who the podium girl, finally gets a win in the women's Tour. Congratulations to both of those. Thanks to Mike for his company. Thank you all for watching.